Morning, guys. I'm just going to show you the way I set up those brakes with a cable and a return spring. Hooked right on that little disc caliper, or the disc mechanism. And the other of the cable goes to the bottom of the joystick, to the cable. However, when I pull on it, I just can't get enough leverage like that. So I'm changing it around. This was the stock pedal that came with it. You see how bent it is? Every time you would step on it, these things would flex when you put any pressure on them. And they would bend. And they're just cheesy. I'm sure that was a stock pedal there. And somebody welded this on there. Which they also had this welded on there. An extension for the children that were shorter. Could reach it. Well, this is what I made yesterday. This will be the riser. I cut the other pedal off, cleaned it up. It's upside down. I'm getting ready to weld it together. I've got my pivot point, 2 spacers. This actually has a hole that goes all the way through it, which would be used for the linkage attachment, and then the pedal. Now left enough of a nubbin to catch your foot. It's sitting on there upside down right now. This will actually stick out to catch your foot from sliding over when I weld it together. Okay, I'll show you after I get it done how I'm going to do that. An inch wider and 2 inches taller. And what I've done is I made these new axles to go in place. Okay, guys, I got the brakes done. I changed the spring system over to that, from that pushing spring. And I just took the original linkage and welded it back together, and I used some of the accelerator linkage, welded it in place. My pedal welded together and mounted, and it works good. And I found that when I moved the joystick forward and back, it was flexing the throttle cable and making it rev up, which would make it take off. If I tried to start it, it was going to run away. So I put an additional return spring on the throttle butterfly controller, and that just helps pull it shut. And I adjusted the throttle control stop down to where it's idles where it's supposed to. And I'm getting ready to mount my other new wheels, which I've showed you those before. They're in the box here. They're a place to compensate, because I still want to use the Ackerman theory on the steering arms, and it's going to, since it's forward steer, they will bump the tires in the current position. So I need to move the tires out. So with these being 10-inch axles, and of course I cut some off to fit them inside the this part. And then screwed them on, and I'll weld that around there to make sure it stays, which gives me 6 inches of shaft. I'm going to put a 3-inch spacer on there, hold the tire 3 inches out, which will give me 2 inches more than I've got. Alright, guys, got my tires changed. You can see how much taller the new ones are than the old ones. As far as width, the old ones actually look wider, but when inflated. I think they're real similar. Anyway, I'm gaining 2 inches height, which is 1 inch of ground clearance. And I've also shown you, you see this weight in that orange string. I'll have one just like that on the rear end of the machine at the center of the rear axle. And if you follow it, you'll see I've got it right in line with my kingpins, with the bottom of the kingpin. Of course, there's a camber in works there. And then when you look straight down through the eye of the steering rod, you see the string. That's how I'm achieving the Ackerman theory. I'm using this square tubing butted up against the yoke to make sure, and then paralleling my axle with that before I weld, just to make sure I've got everything that I can think of in line as close as can be. So anyway, that's how I'm doing that. Of course, you can see my new axle, and I've spot welded that first steering arm on there. This is the old one. You can see the difference. It's quite a bit shorter. You see the spacer I put on there. That's not welded in there yet, but that's going to hold that tire out 3 inches. So I know that my tire's not going to rub on this steering arm. Plus it's going to give me more ground clearance. And these are spring loaded, which is kind of neat. I'm going to have to make some shims to fill up this little gap, because these were longer than what I'm using now from here down to the other end. So I got like a 1/2 inch gap in there I'm going to have to fill up. But that little spring-loaded piece is a nice touch. Okay, I'll do the other side and then put things together. I'm hoping that my tie rods are going to be long enough. I don't want to have to extend them again, but I will if I have to. Alright, keep you posted.